Hey there, good people. So, welcome back on another episode of Arise Insights with your girl Cynthia Natasha Roma. And today's conversation is just a continuation of what we've been talking about in the previous weeks. So, we've been talking about rest. So, this conversation actually started when someone had approached me and asked me that, okay, I get it that there is this rest that is not just an emotion or a feeling, but it's something that I need to be intentional about it. So, I need to be intentional about it when receiving it. I also need to be intentional about it when searching for it. So after I have received and I have found that peace and rest, then what next? So it kind of got me thinking that yeah, it's true. And actually, if you really need to experience rest and peace in its fullness, you also need to learn how to cooperate with it. So we can talk about cooperating with peace and rest without talking about guarding that peace. So I need us to be also inspired by what Paul wrote in Philippians 4, verse 7. What I'm really interested in is what he said after. He said that the peace that surpasses mankind understanding will guard your heart and your mind. So, guarding your peace or guarding your rest, it's something that you need to be intentional about. Actually, the word guarding itself, it's a military word. So you can't talk about guarding without mentioning fighting, without mentioning you fighting for your peace, without mentioning that there is going to be a resistance. There's going to be always something coming after your peace and your rest, and then you need to guard that very same thing. So guarding that peace and rest also means that you don't really need to stop living. You don't really need to stop becoming who God has called you to become just so you can, focus on guarding your peace. No, you can do both. Even the Bible encourages us that you must watch and pray. So that is kind of similar with what Nehemiah did in Nehemiah 4 verse, should be 16, 17 going down. So just a background story, this was a man who was building a wall around the city that was given to them. Actually, that was, I should say, a gift or reward from God. But as they were building, resistance came. So there were people opposing what they were doing or what they had. So they needed to fight back. So for them to win this fight, normally you would think that, okay, then we need to stop building just so we can go to fight, just so we can go to war. But that's not what Nehemiah did. So let's read what he did in Nehemiah 4 verse 16. It says that from that day on, half of my men did the work while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. So this is really beautiful if you just look at it the way it is. Just because you have been called to do whatever God has called you to do, just because you are becoming who God has called you to become, just because you are rising up, just because you are on your way to, living a life that is truly being driven by purpose, it doesn't mean you need to stop one thing just so you can focus on the other. No, you can do both at the same time. You can build whilst guarding that thing that you are building. You can watch and you can also pray at the same time. You can rest, you can also protect that rest at the same time. So it's beautiful because at the end of the day, you also realize that guarding that peace or guarding that rest, it's not just something you do just for the sake of it. If you're building something beautiful and valuable at the same time, you realize that you guard only that which you have valued. So you place a value on something that this is mine. Because the issue with most of us, it's not like we don't know what to do or we don't know that we need discipline or maybe we like spiritual maturity. No, But I just think that with all the things that are going on outside, along the way, we stopped believing that we deserve peace. We stopped believing that we deserve to even keep it. So at the end of the day, we ended up, giving it away. We ended up, giving in to demands of the world or the expectations of the people, to the point that we ended up giving away the very same things that were helping us to really experience what peace is all about. So you need to value peace if you need to protect it. Actually, you can only protect that which you can only value. So what I am really saying is that peace is not cheap, but you also need to be intentional about it. So if you need to be intentional about it, you need to picture peace not as something you arrive at or just a destination, but something that you need to return to every now and then. You know, I'm having this picture in mind about a living sacrifice and a burnt sacrifice. With a burnt sacrifice, you know that when you bring it to the altar, you burn it, you're good to go. But with a living sacrifice, a living thing has its own mind, it has its own will. So it can be there in the morning, but in the evening, it might be wandering wherever it is. So it needs intentionality to really stay present there. If you are really a living sacrifice, you need to be present, like intentionally present right there at the altar. So what I'm trying to say is, if peace needs to be guarded with so much intentionality, that means you also need to be so intentional with your relationship with God. Because if you're saying that the source of peace is God Himself, then if you do not nurture the intimacy that you have with God, if that intimacy fades away, that means peace also fades away with it. If you drift away from God, if you drift away from the source of your peace, it means that it will be impossible for you to maintain what was flowing from that source. In the previous weeks, we've been taking an example of what happened to Cain. You know, when God told him that you are going to be a restless wanderer, what he responded back to God was, now that you have taken your presence away from me, then I'm going to be a restless wanderer. But the thing is, you read the whole chapter, there is nowhere God mentioned that I'm taking away my presence with you. But I think he really understood it. When God told him that you are going to be a restless wanderer, he understood it, that it is not just God allowing me to know the nature of my heart right now, but it means that his presence has also left. I have drifted away from him. So because I have drifted away from him, I don't think I can ever experience what I took for granted. So he didn't know that all this while, when God was trying to tell him that, your brother did good, but you can also do better if you do ABCD. He didn't know that that was peace speaking. That was God granting him, the opportunity to experience what rest is all about. But when God stepped back, not really by telling him that I'm stepping back, he only told him that you're going to be ABCD, you're going to be a restless wanderer. The things that he told him after he had done what he did. But he understood it, that I think the presence of God has left me. Now I am alone. So if you know that you really need to experience peace, if you know that peace is something that you need to keep, you need to protect, you also need to be intentional about your relationship with God. We can talk about the external things, about letting go of the things that you need to let go of. We can talk about you not being present in environments that constantly drains the peace out of you, or the things that pulls you back to the very same things that are going to make you lose your rest and your peace. We can talk about how you need to be intentional of the things that you let in your mind, the voices you let in your mind. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to you being intentional about your relationship with God. Because if you can be so intentional with your relationship with God, I think everything else will flow better out of that relationship. So that's it for today. It's not like I really had a list of do's and don'ts for you so that you can know this is how I need to guard my peace. But I truly believe that if you can just take it back to God and ask Him that, what is it that I need to do now that I am trying to be intentional with my relationship with you? What is it that I need to do externally for this peace to be maintained, for this peace to be sustained. I think He will reveal to you what you need to do, because it varies from person to person. I mean, we are wired differently. So the things that God had to point out so that I can, continually experience rest and peace, I don't think they can be the same thing that you need to do. But you also have you have different things, or you have your specific things that I think God can really highlight to you if you can go back to Him and ask Him, what is it that I need to do? What is it that I need not to do if this peace needs to be sustained and maintained? Otherwise, see you in the next episode. And if you have any questions or anything that you need clarification on, in as far as this peace and rest is concerned, either today's conversation or the previous episode that we've been having, do sure to hit me with your concerns, your questions through the comment section. Otherwise, see you in the next episode.